Okay, that's what I thought. Make sure.
Okay, so then in December, the Disability Rights of California filed a letter requesting, this is it right here, that the State Department come in and do a thorough review of Hollister. And so the 14 page letter defines the areas they wanted to go over: the compliance complaints, problems with a STEP program, restraint, seclusion, lack of lawful documentation, discriminatory placement practices, least restrictive environment, and other types of problems. And then included in here are all the documentations. I just want you to know that all of our CD complaints and redacted student IEPs, communications in here that the Disability Rights Advocacy Group received that parents got from people, so on and so on. And then they also looked at, they talk about the cuts that occurred, and they talk about they put in here the board presentations and board meetings and actions. So the legal counsel for your district did let them know that this review has happened, that the board, but, and I've been in touch with this person, and I sent her everything that was being presented tonight after it was posted for you. But I really recommend that the district respond to this and just say, here's where we're at, we get it, we know it, we're working on it, type of thing. So I just wanted to bring that to you. Okay, so then the next part I looked at was performance review indicators, the accountability process that the state has put in for special ed. And when I asked the teachers yesterday about this, none of them knew what it was. So I was a little concerned about that, but anyway. So there's 14 indicators, I'm gonna flip through these real quick, that the State Department monitors in school districts on. And here they are. These are 14 for all school districts. Graduation rate, dropout rate, statewide assessments, suspension and expulsion, least restrictive environment, preschool least restrictive environment. And what the least restrictive environment talks about is right there. A, that they're in the classroom, regular class, 80% or more of the day. Inside a regular classroom, less than 40% of the day. And C, separate schools, homebound or residential. So they want to see the students in the classroom as much as generally a classroom setting and so on. Same for preschool. Preschool assessments, parent involvement, disproportionality, meaning identifying too many kids in a certain ethnic group disproportionately for SPED. Eligibility evaluation, whether you've done the assessment within 60 days, and then transition of preschoolers, secondary transition goals, and post-school. So Hollister's indicators, these are the ones that the district is being measured by, these here. So, Jesus, do they have the document with the overview on it? The PIR overview?
No, it has been worked back.
Yeah.
Okay.
Here.
Yeah,
It's a board packet. It's in
It's
our
on the board back.
let me, right.
Yes, it's okay. Is it
Okay, so on the back table is the, I pulled together, and it's in your board packet.
3 year.
But if you need, yeah, the 3-year one.
Okay.
So I took, there's a couple areas that Hollister continues to have challenges with. So on indicator 5, statewide assessment, the academic achievement testing to meet the requirements of the CAPS. So every year you met, 15, 16, you met the participation rate. See right there, it says they exceeded for English, language, arts, and math. But the students, the target for students having level 3 or 4 achievement was 13% and 15% for ELA, and Hollister was 7.86%. In math, it was 12%, Hollister was 7.64%. Or maybe that was 8, I don't know, I have my classes on. The following year, you went up. ELA, you had, the target was 13%, and you went 15.63%, and math was 11.60, and math was 11.24. You didn't meet that target.
What grade level are we?
It's across, it's all the grade levels that are tested. What is that, Jennifer?
It's third.
Third, thank you. Yeah. But last year, this was recently released, so I don't, just got it before we went to break. This past year, the target was 14.9%. You'll notice that the target went up for math, and the achievement was 9.9%. And then math, it was 12.6%, and the special ed was 8.1%. So this is an area of concern, and that the state is monitoring this on the district. The next area is indicator 5, and this goes into the least restrictive environment for grades ages 3 through 5. And I may ask Chris to kind
It's
of
number 6.
indicator 6. So yeah, I didn't have my glasses on. So their target for preschoolers to be in regular program is 41.8%, and Hollister's is 17.82. And each year it goes, and then this past year in 17-18, it was, the target was 43.8, and the percent of students receiving SPED in regular class is 3.1%. And the same for the separate is really high. This is you do not operate your preschool programs, correct? That is a challenge. So when you're in isolate and they don't have access to non-disabled regular preschool, that's a structure that, and Chris, we chatted briefly if you want to share your thoughts.
It's been an ongoing chat over the years, over the last 5 years, encouraging a general ed preschool program to be implemented at the Line Street site. For those of you know where that is, the district currently leases out several of those classrooms, and in order to meet the guidelines of least restrictive environment, we need access. So the county needs access to be able to assist in mainstreaming those kids. So operating, what's the answer, right? We want to be problem-oriented, solution-oriented. The answer is we need a general ed preschool program at that site so that we can mainstream kiddos into a gen ed classroom. Right now what happens, and this has been systemic for several years at this point, and this has been brought forth as a area of concern. Right now what happens is it's a wing and a prayer, essentially, working with these other agencies to mainstream our kids. And so First 5 works with us, Head Start works with us, but that's relationship based. So people come and go, and if the relationship goes, access to mainstreaming kiddo is limited.
So another approach would be to return your preschool programs to your district
So we,
and do your own.
You could do that more, but at the same time, I think that the number one thing is finding a gen ed program for those preschoolers. That's, until you do that, no matter who operates it, you're gonna have the same quandary.
Is there a reason that the county can't do that?
The county would, and I can't speak on behalf of Superintendent Lamont, but those classrooms, it's a space issue. My understanding is it's a space issue. So I do know that I believe it's Head Start that is building their own building. I Yes. Yes, so hopefully, as they transition out, the gen ed program can transition in. That would be the ideal solution.
That would be.
I mean, Hollister owns those buildings,
Mhm.
so.
But so are you saying that we are required to have a preschool program and then have that school program service special ed kids?
Access.
Have access.
Required to provide access to the least restrictive environment. That's correct.
But if we don't oversee them now,
Doesn't matter who oversees them.
You're still.
Access to residences
is our
is your
our
responsibility.
responsibility still on our shoulders.
Even
Regardless
a
of
rural
who
county like ours has to.
Okay, number 11, eligibility evaluations. And this is something that the state, the target's 100%, meaning that you meet the timeline to get the assessments done within 60 days. And then 15, in every year, including last year, that did not happen. And so this was discussed a little bit at the teacher meeting yesterday, and they were really concerned, so I haven't delved into what, what the specifics are on each of these, but this is something the state takes very seriously, and they really don't care what your excuse is, whether a parent doesn't provide the time or the student doesn't come to school or whatever. So this is something that the state is coming to the district to come in and investigate. Provide technical assistance. The last one, and I just wanted it, LRE Educator 5, in 16-17, the district did not meet they want, this target is for 50% of your special ed students to be in general ed 80% or more of the time in regular classrooms. And you'll notice there in 16-17, you had 40.13%, so you didn't meet the target. But the target and then less than 23.6% in separate class. You did meet that target, but barely. This is an issue that the whole push in, I think the intent of moving in that direction 2 years ago, it was well intended. It just didn't, like I said, didn't roll out quite right. But I think that, the LRE is an issue that as a district, when we talk about action planning and where you put programs and what you do, needs to help accommodate that access. And so this year you're fine, 17-18, but you're teetering on the edge. So 17, just before winter break, there will be some monitoring of the district. And so number one, there was your suspension rate for special ed students went up in 17-18. So they're gonna be monitoring that. I don't know what happened, but I just know that it has gone up, and that's something they're gonna be monitoring that. And you're in the red on the CDE accountability, special ed is in the red. And it increased by 3% in special ed. So that's something they're gonna come in and work with the district on. And then the eligibility evaluation, meeting those timelines. But I do think structurally, getting systems in place that we can manage that. So in terms of the eligibility, I just have to dig with your team and look at what it is. What are the missing pieces? And again, I think the teachers were like, wow, okay, we need to fix that. So I mean, and I gotta tell you, meeting with your staff yesterday was really awesome. They were very hopeful. And I think that they felt like they were heard, and now let's figure out what we gotta do to make it better. No, everybody was very positive. I did, and I'm not gonna go through it, but in the back is a document that I went through all the recommendations that FigMap put together for you. And I went through and in the middle in the middle column on the document, it shows where your district, what you did. You've done a lot of the FigMap recommendations from 2014. I was kind of surprised that there were some things in there that are just now getting started. So if you'll look at that document, we can come back about it. This is a big document. But your team really went through that and helped me kind of dig through that. I think the one thing I heard consistently was about the layoffs and such and that occurred. And when I read the document, the FICMAT report, what they recommended was the para-educator staffing, I forgot a word, overstaffing in some classes. And so they recommended when I looked at the numbers and the staffing, I probably would have said the same thing, okay? What they recommended was not out of the ordinary. It was the staffing needed to be looked at. So there were 20, and then, Eric, I didn't get to update, but there was about 20 something positions that were laid off, but there was overstaffing, okay? So I think that, but how that happens, it's just not a blanket thing. I mean, I would really be careful and really analyze it. That's probably what the missing piece was. They did also identify caseloads. I don't think you cut RSP positions, but they based it on numbers, which, you know, you have to do something with numbers. You know, when you're planning, you have to look at how many kids, how many staff, and so on. So I think it probably, you know, now, this is a chart I put together, and in 16-17, here's the positions that you had. So you have, you know, the district had cuts, but then there's some people have been brought back. So people have asked me, have they all been brought back or whatever? And I was like, well, I don't know. So I grabbed some numbers, and Erica was very helpful in that. But, you know, that was a change. Maybe, I think perhaps the way it was rolled out and really analyzing it and taking it toward steps, I probably would have handled it a little bit differently, but, you know, they just went straight by the FICMAT recommendation. So it is what it is, so. But I did ask about your budget, and this is very concerning. Your budget, your general fund contribution to special ed is over 70%. That's big. The average a few years ago, when I started in special ed, I mean, when I was head of special ed, it was 25%. We thought that was a lot. Districts I've been working with, it's anywhere from 50 to 60%. Here's 71%. I think that that's something that I recommend that when I mentioned earlier about really looking at the budget, trying to identify what's happening and making sure when we plan for 1920, that when you develop that we really look at some of that data, because the costs are definitely increasing, and that's a general fund expense that's pretty high, 71%.
So if I'm interpreting what you're saying we're spending a lot of money on special ed.
You are.
Okay. But we're not getting.
So I think what would be really helpful, in my opinion, when you talk about this, because budgets are so massive, and I'm a simple person, so I would like to see really delineate what that means. What does that mean? And I think, you know, budget reports are cumbersome, you know. So I would like to recommend that we peel this down and say exactly what everything is going for.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think that would help you.
Well,
And then-
it would help the community
Oh,
understand.
absolutely, for transparency.
Yes.
And then when you peel it back, and then you look at how it rolls out into programs and services and stuff. So you have a really clear understanding. And then that will be a basis, you know, your foundation for building next year.
Is that $720,000? Is that SELPA money?
It's when other districts bring students into your district, they're placed in regional programs, they pay for those students.
What do we get from SELPA?
Revenue, that's your revenue, that's
The 1 million,
So
It's,
Go ahead,
If I
Amy.
may, so
Yes.
I apologize
Please do.
for speaking up. So what we get allocated through the SELBA would be the AB 602 revenue, the federal grant or the federal IDEA revenue, and the rest of it, state grants is separate, Medi-Cal is separate, and the regional programs are actually directly from other districts whose students we serve.
That's the ADA, and that's what we build in.
the Medi-Cal, is that the one that we call the MAW report?
It's LEA, so
Yeah.
it's semi-related to that, but it's not the exact same program. MAW and LEA billing are two.
What are the ones where our
Collaborative?
the nurses and the
Yeah.
SLPs, they have to fill out?
Yeah.
Where are those monies?
That's the Medi-Cal.
Only $3,500?
No. So it receives a lot more money than that, but Medi-Cal isn't specific to special education. So that 35 that's just how much of special education expenses that is covered with that. So the rest of it is really general education, and then some of it is the cost to run the program.
No, I that doesn't sound right at all.
I don't understand that at all.
Yeah,
The Medi-Cal.
Dr. Shepherd,
the
can
LE
you clarify this, please?
Medi-Cal billing.
Well,
I do. Because this is not what I've been told for a long time.
no. Well, yes, but every district approaches it a little differently, and honestly, I haven't really talked to Gabriel about this, so, I think coming back and explaining it better when we get on the same page would be best.
Okay,
But I do have to say, when I got this number, and Gabe was really quick today for me, because it was a thought I had, last minute, that is kind of a low number.
like really low.
Yes. It would be something, a red flag for me, but I'm not sure how it's delineated in the district, but I think definitely we can come back up. So my recommendation is that we take all of this and the district, develop an action plan that really takes each of the issues. And honestly, when I'm thinking about timeline, because you're January 8th, some issues, in my opinion, we should bump ahead of others, but they're really taking each of the issues and looking what action needs to be happen, and then assign it to whomever within the district, get some timelines, and then that we have a living document that takes each one of these areas. The district, is moving on some of these things already, so that's awesome. I think one of the critical issues is the staffing parameters and where the district sits now and where we anticipate being in 1920. But also the leadership of the department is something that I would like to encourage, really defining what that structure is going to look like in the department sooner than later, so that you can be on the front line of getting qualified leaders. That, and we need to be ahead of the game, not getting whatever someone else doesn't want.
Right.
So, in my opinion, those would be my two priorities at this point in time to address, so that there's some planning. And then the state budget's coming out, and hopefully the numbers will be better. But special ed, just to clarify too, special ed, the federal government is not paying, and never has and never will probably pay their full entitlement that they had for that. So I think that's, what you see in your numbers are very typical, although albeit yours are higher than what I have seen of late. But I do think that really peeling it back, and it may be that way for a while until you as a district get some things put together and get systems in place. So thank you for your patience and enlightening.
So do we,
Hi.
well, I don't know.
Yeah.
Who does?
I would like to say something towards this.
Oh, sure, go for it.
First of all, this is a very comprehensive report, and this is exactly what this district needed. And to me, I'm looking at this as marching orders. This isn't just something to look at. This is something we need to follow through. I'd like to see this revisited again in a couple months, maybe 2-3 months before the end of this school year for sure. And then again revisited at the beginning of the next school year to see what type of progress we are making on this. I don't want this to fall by the wayside because a lot of work went into this and it's an excellent job. Thank you very much for doing it.
I just also want to say that I want to give kudos to Dr. Barr because something was right. It was pretty funny when he called me and he said, something's not right here, and I'm not sure what it is. And so I just think not very many, I want to say not very many interim superintendents would even have identified it and acknowledged it and done something. And I have a lot of appreciation. Go ahead. I've never done an interim superintendent, and after watching him, anyway, no. But most people don't do anything, they just, and you would not be here today if it wasn't for his leadership.
Thank you. I just want to say that it's clear tonight, and I returned those kudos because I knew I knew the right person to do this report. I knew we needed it, but I knew I needed to find the right person to do it that wouldn't have any kind of reservation of turning over every rock and looking at every issue. And I think what this report says in summary is kind of interesting to me. First of all, somewhere culturally, or somewhere the culture of special education spun off course, and activities and procedures and communications and responsibilities and all sorts of functions spun off course, and we incurred everything that you heard in this report. And yet at the end, it's kind of interesting showing that we spend 71% of the total cost of special education out of the general budget. So to me, there's kind of a disconnect there. We are spending a fair amount of money. Not that there aren't other districts that spend 60, 70%. I've been known to say at some point the special ed is going to become dollar for dollar. It's going to become 100% because the need for services, the identification processes, the advocacy, the legislation, and litigation all have gotten more and more and more sophisticated, and we identify more students. We have more clarity about the disabilities within our students. We have a requirement, a need, and a moral obligation to serve all those needs. So the costs continue to go up in comparison to what the small amount from the feds are. Marilyn's absolutely right. The feds have never. In fact, when I grilled them one day a few years back, I said, "Where's the 40% that you said that you would serve back in 1979 when the laws came about?" And they said, "Well, that was up to 40%." I said, "That sounds like the sale banner in the window of the merchant downtown. Sale up to 40%." But we are spending a lot of money. I think there's a better way to get the value for your money. And it's not a money issue anyway. There's a moral obligation, there's a legal obligation, there's an educational obligation, all of which are reasons why every one of you are on this board. And many of the people in the audience are here tonight. And I think what I can say about this is that it's a new day. There's hope, there's opportunity. There's a line drawn that said, from this point forward, we're going to start doing things differently. We're going to get better. I can assure you that it can't be done overnight, but there should be progress weekly. There should be progress monthly. There should be an expectation of this board that says we want to report back every 90 days or something like that. I don't care if it's one of these items achieved, 1 item, 2 items, 10 items. Every time there's items achieved, we want to hear about it every 30 days or every 90 days. But something reasonable. Management, it takes time to get a lot of things done, but it's clear here that Dr. Shepherd turned over every rock, identified everything from staffing to services to out of compliances to budget to on and on. So I think it's a great start for the district. I hope that they take this seriously. I know you will. It was you that said, that gave permission to commission an independent contractor to do this survey.
We did.
You're awfully glad you did. And Dr. Shepherd is continuing with us in a consulting capacity again and helping us implement a lot of this. So we're very fortunate. That's my take on everything. And I appreciate all the involvement of all the stakeholders. When she asked me who should I interview, I said everyone. No, she mean
I
everyone.
didn't get quite to everyone.
I said everyone, underline everyone.
But then he said, can you get it done tomorrow? So that was the problem.
We have a long history of working together. So it's an easy communication. Thank you very much for allowing that report. And thank you. Anybody else have?
Yeah, I just had one other question, just for clarification. So we have the program, the SELPA program, and then last night in here we heard, was it Families Helping Families?
Parents.
What is it?
Parents helping parents.
Parents Helping Parents, and that too is also geared towards special ed. Okay, and then, but what we heard was, and who runs that program?
It's actually based out of San Jose. Every regional area has to have like a regional center to support families. It's not just in California. This is across the country.
Okay, but
And Parents Helping Parents is based in San Jose.
so it's a nonprofit.
It's a nonprofit, and what happened here is that initially I volunteered to facilitate a Parents Helping Parents parent group to address special ed support those parents.
But you're not getting any meeting space from us?
It's been very difficult. The only meeting space that I was ever able to find was Mars Hill. And it's a small conference room that only accommodates maybe 10 people. It's not sufficient. Parents Helping Parents is also willing to provide trainings and
And actually, we have utilized Hollister School District's facilities for PHP. PHP has presented here. They presented at Lad Lane for the parent conference that we did through CAC. So the group that Kim's referring to is more of a support group, but we've had trainings that run in conjunction with PHP, and SELPA works collaboratively with them. So they have had access to the facilities. I'm just not sure of that particular group.
I'd also say that as a volunteer support group, you can also bring in speakers and have trainings.
Yeah.
Because PHP supports them.
It's part
Well, I
of,
just
it's all
wanna
part
make
of the
sure-
same umbrella.
If we should be providing facility space, I mean, I can imagine what it is. Somebody has to open, somebody has to close, and it becomes
It's a, you know what, it's typically, it's a once a month meeting, it's usually the first Thursday of every month, in the evening. And it would be a great help to have access to a bigger facility.
Have you gone online to request a facility?
Multiple, not
Here,
here.
Hollister.
The reason I did not, and I won't really get in, but because of the dynamics that have gone on the last couple of years, I felt there could be a conflict of interest. And, I do see this as a new beginning, new opportunity. I have a lot of hope. And with that, now, if Hollister School District can provide a different location, I think it would be an enormous benefit, because I think there's the opportunity to grow this group, and there's a huge need for it.
I think once we have a new superintendent, I think perhaps that channel of communication can open up.
Open back up.
Do we want to do public comment now?
I had just
I'm
one
not sure
other,
that's up.
one other remark as far as the report, because you were mentioning our special ed website or lack thereof, but having this report actually accessible on our website. You know, because the more people have it, see it, there's accountability even for us, you know, as a district. And so I think it's important for this document to be online.
Well, and I don't understand why this can't be online.
Well, it's all public record.
Yeah, I think both should be online.
Right, I do too.
So I went on the website just to make sure, and let me know if I'm doing it wrong. But there is a translation piece here, but it only translates the titles. So like if we added this document, we would have to translate the document and then put it under the little title. And I don't know how, if we have the people power to do that, or who could do that, or if not, I mean, we can have some volunteers, because this is important, you know.
One of the problems is that nothing is being interpreted, and very little translation is going on. Exactly what you're talking about. Tell me to come up
I
to
know,
that.
I don't understand.
I mean,
But Kim, if you use Google Translate on here, why can't you use it on here?
Oh, you don't
this
wanna
is
do Google
the thing
Translate.
about
Google Translate
Google
translates
Translate.
We don't wanna do that,
Yeah,
because it won't translate appropriately.
correctly.
no.
Yeah, no, it's a good, yeah, it's a good suggestion, but it won't.
I'm using it as, and we've talked about this, I'm using it as an alternative because I know nothing's going out to Spanish, and I do not speak Spanish.
Right.
But I have had Spanish-speaking families contact me, and trying to at least give them, because I think it's so hard for parents that are English-speaking, that don't have a second language, that are even highly educated, to understand the IEP process.
That's
Even
so
sitting
for
here
sure.
tonight
Right.
and listening to this report, I can see holes where you guys aren't understanding things. And those holes are causing problems. You know, and it's, it's important that we get the word out in Spanish.
Anything else?
Well, yeah, we'll get these two documents on, and I think that I was looking at a calendar, and maybe we could get just a progress report like March 26th. That'd be our second meeting in March, and just to see where we're at. Hopefully we've hired some people.
Well, that's a nice period of time.
Yeah.
We'll have, for progress.
Right,
We'll
right,
see what
right.
we've done by then. I just don't want us to forget about this.
No,
I
no,
want us to keep marching
Yeah.
to these.
thank you.
And the last thing I'll add is that it's incumbent upon a professional staff to educate its board. We don't expect you to be experts, though some of you are pretty darn skilled. We don't expect you to have the same level of we administrators who spend a lifetime in career and training and experience. And yet, it's our responsibility to educate you enough to help you make the decisions that are required within policy and administrative direction. And that's part of what I want to see change in the culture here. There were a lot of things that, as I said, spun off course, not because of your knowledge or lack of knowledge, but because of the administrators not educating the board about the conditions of special education or the direction they've taken, or a change of a program need, or the laying off or adding of staff, all of those things which, you know, should have been on a list of educate the board about this. And that's what has to really happen. It has to start at the administrative level and come up through the superintendent, and then ultimately shared with the board. And when there's a need for policy, we should present a policy to you. When there's a need simply for direction, to give consensus direction to administration to go forward, then it will be on the record. You will have discussed it here. It will be an open session on the record. We can always look back and say, yes, we all talked about this. Public had an opportunity to weigh in, and we went down that path.
Well,
But
just
that's what's been missing.
the fact that we had all these filings with CDE and we had no clue. You know, when you brought it to
That's not
us,
fair to the old.
I think it really was very disturbing. That as an interim, you had to
Bear the bad news.
Yeah. Unfortunately, and take action in the form that we had to take.
I don't need a recommendation to re-retire.
Me either.
Dr. Shepherd, thank you.
Thank
It's
Well, we
very-
have some comments.
Yeah, we have some comments.
Cheryl?
Where to begin? I'm Cheryl Rios. I'm a speech language pathologist in the district. I have worked in the district for 26 years. I have seen and had the pleasure of working for special ed during its glory days. We had parents moving to Hollister because of our special education program. They came out of San Jose because we had a reputable program. 3 years ago, I went job shopping because it was not a program I was proud to be part of anymore. Tonight, I am hopeful. To pick up on a theme that you mentioned, Steve, marching orders, I want you to think about your special ed staff as wounded warriors, because that is what we are after the last 2 years. You have very committed, very talented, very idealistic special education teachers, but we have been put through the mill. We have been the brunt of the lack of communication. We have been the brunt of the parent complaints. We have had to figure out partly how we are going to do the compensatory education. One of the things that I would like to recommend is to have a separate budget line item to track how much money is having to be spent on the compensatory education and how much money is having to be spent on consultants. Not Dr. Shepherd, but the consultant teachers that we have coming in. Keep track of that. As we look at substantive changes, the people in the trenches need to be involved in that as well. They need to be brought into the fold. How are we going to make these changes? What works for them? I'm just picking up on some of the different things that were said in terms of teachers using their phones. CTA, HESTA are telling teachers, never, ever, ever use your own private cell phone to contact parents about anything. It is a legal liability for the teachers. Email from your district, call from your district phone, all the time. Interpreting of meetings, perhaps we can look at paras who are already at the sites, create a full-time position. Yes, it would include benefits, but have them available after school. They know the kids, they know the lingo, they need more training, absolutely, but have a full-time para position at each site. That would help a lot. Then after yesterday's meeting, I had a number of teachers
Finish your thought.
contact me, and here's where they said their needs are. Initial needs, beyond communication. Communication is 100% their first thing. But we need to take an inventory of materials that everybody has. We need to make sure that the teachers have the curriculum materials that they are supposed to have to implement their program. We need to make sure that everybody has assessments. Right now, people are sharing assessments. And those are our curriculum. As a speech therapist, that is my only curriculum. I have to have my own assessment and not share. Technology for our special ed students. 2013, 2014, I believe it is, we had a tech plan that was written, and 3 years from there, we were supposed to have been at one-to-one correspondence. I don't think special ed students were even included in that, but at Mays, a middle school, where middle school students are more and more on their technology, we have 3 special day classes, each with about 15 students per. They have four Chromebooks that they have to share. And so I see these little things of Chromebooks going back and forth. At Mays, we have carts that have to be shared in the Gen Ed.
So to cut you short, when we get settled here with a new superintendent, should we elect to hire one sometime in the near future, I believe we are going to have a workshop just for that. And I think that all of these comments that you're bringing forth might be more appropriate for them then.
And then Dr.
But
Shepherd.
I think that it's related to special ed as well.
Yeah.
Because I'm thinking of special ed similar to how people talk about politics. A lot of people don't want to get involved in politics, but politics involves everybody.
Correct.
Gen ed, school districts in some cases don't really want to care, just keep it away from me. But with special ed, as you guys are finding out, involves everybody. It impacts everybody. And as we move forward with all of the CDE coming down, what Dr. Shepherd is recommending, which is just legal and best practices, it is going to affect everybody.
Absolutely.
One other thing that I wanted to mention, just in terms of the Medi-Cal, because that just kind of got me all going. I personally, as an SLP, 1 year, brought in $28,000 to the district. So the $3,500, I have no idea where that comes from. We currently have somewhere above $500,000 sitting available to people to access. Now, there are severe restrictions on how that money can be used. It cannot be used to supplant what a district is supposed to do, but it can be used to support. So if there are additional things, printers in special ed classrooms, that is something that it could be used for. So there should be lots of money right there. And one other thing, real quickly, because it was mentioned that about parent relationships and so forth, and Mr. Ochoa has mentioned it in his meetings with us that he hasn't been able to find anything good about Hollister on social media and so forth. I want to toot the horn for Mays. On January 15th, we are hosting a parent workshop. And I'm hoping that everybody gets that information, comes, and we are targeting bullying, drugs, and social media. So we need to do.
Benito link?
I'm hoping that Benito link will. Is it in Spanish?
Thank you.
All right. Is it going to be in Spanish?
We'll have translation.
But is the flyer in Spanish?
We will send an all-call.
That should be easy.
Right, so, this is,
We're gonna have to move on.
I'm sorry,
That's okay.
so just wanted to, thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Thanks for
I do want to say the FICMAT report, this clarification, it was addressed about the technology. So in there,
I read that.
yeah, the district is addressing that and they're projecting one-to-one. So make sure you look at the FICMAT report because the district the staff is already looking at that.
Okay.
Okay, my name is Anita Saringhouse. I'm one of the nurses for Hollister School District. Many of you know me. I wanted to speak tonight as a parent. Some of what I'm saying I have knowledge of because I do work for the district, but I'm speaking to you as a parent. My son was one of those kids, not someone that a complaint was filed about. He has dyslexia. He had an IEP. During the 3rd year of that IEP, it was not followed at all. For his 5th grade year, he was supposed to have pull-out services, and instead they said he was getting pushed in. When I would speak to the special ed person who was covering at the time, they said, well, when we come in, your son says he doesn't really want us to sit with him and help him, so he doesn't need help. He was getting B's, he wasn't failing. And so the thing that I want to express right now is whoever comes in as a director of special ed, I think that they need to be more than willing to speak with parents. Sometimes special ed parents come in and they feel angry. One of the reasons that I have personal knowledge in that is that before I became a nurse for Hollister School District, first I did 10 years in oncology, but then I did 2 years of caring for a little boy at home. And it was amazing watching what his parents fight for. Hearing them on the phone with places like Apria, which is an oxygen supply company, fighting over who will pay and if in fact the oxygen will even be delivered that month. So yeah, they're fighting for everything. So sometimes when they come into our school settings, they are angry, they are frustrated, they have to fight for everything for their kids. So we need someone who will honestly say, I'm not going to have walls up. I'm not here to fight with you. I'm here to listen to you and what you need. The other thing I would say is that we need someone who will communicate back. As a school employee, I wrote my supervisor, probably dozens upon dozens of emails, just letting him know if we needed something or trying to get communication. I received 2 back last year. 2 responses. The other thing I'll say, I noticed Elizabeth, you looked just kind of surprised and maybe even not sure what the parent was talking about. That particular district, special ed, whatever he was. What am I saying? I'm sorry, I'm not usually nervous. Director, yes. He actually, in front of the 39 paras that he was letting go, when I was surprised that that many were being cut, said, well, it's quite clear. We have no obligation. Let me make sure I get the quote right. We are under no obligation. What did I tell you that he said?
To maximize.
To maximize the potential of special ed students. So you can imagine, as a parent of a special ed kid, that's really painful. But my kid has nothing wrong with him compared to the very, very seriously ill kids that are in special education in this district. And lastly, I really do want to say, I have not seen integrity in this district for 2 years. And so you, Dr. Barr, are an amazing breath of fresh air, and I thank God that you came for this period of time and that you agreed to come to this district. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to 10A, discussion. Oh, I'm
We
sorry.
don't do any action?
No, it's just
Okay,
a
there's nothing to action.
Okay. As long as you follow up.
Okay. 10A, verbal summary of compensation package offered to the superintendent. It is recommended that the board share a verbal summary of the compensation package offered to the superintendent, and I will read that to you now. AB 1437 became effective January 1, 2017, requiring executive compensation to be orally summarized in open session before it is approved by the board. The superintendent's total compensation will be $209,000 per school year, February 8th, 2019 through June 30th, 2022. Superintendent shall be employed for the final 5 months of the 2018-19 school year. Total salary for the 2018-19 year shall be $80,101.32. The superintendent shall be entitled to receive the same health and welfare benefit package that is provided to other full-time district certificated administrative employees. The superintendent shall be entitled to vacation equal to that of senior management of the district. Vacation shall be accrued and accumulated in the same manner as for senior management of the district. Dues to 2 professional education organizations will be provided. Also, other annual membership dues and other professional and community service organization may be approved by the board not to exceed $1,000.
No, you've got
Now
to
go
do
to
the.
discussion.
Discussion.
So the discussion is over the approval of the contract. that we have.
Correct.
So we go into 10B.
We're going to 10B, discussion and possible approval of the employment agreement with superintendent. It is recommended that the board approve the contract with Diego Ochoa as the superintendent of the Hollister School District.
So-
And,
Well, I was gonna say, so I'll make a motion.
go ahead.
I make a motion that we approve the contract that was just summarized.
I second it.
All in favor?
Now let's do discussion.
Oh, I'm sorry, discussion.
Yeah.
Sorry, discussion. Let's open it up to the audience first.
Oh, okay, you can do that. Okay,
Can I just go ahead and make my comment?
Sure.
It's not gonna, it's positive.
The podium.
And it has nothing to do with
Just-
special ed.
Just to clarify, the board has an option of practice, which I've seen in various districts. The board can make its own comments, then turn it over to the public to make their comments, and then bring it back to the board. Some boards just go ahead and take the comments from the public right to begin with, and then come back to their comments. I think the board tonight is preferring just to go ahead and let the public comment on anything they want, and then they'll come back and have their time for comments, and then take action.
I appreciate this opportunity. I'm Kim Taylor. I'm a lay special education advocate and an active community member. And for the first time, I'm not up here talking about special ed. I will get back to that another date. But I want to say that I had the pleasure of attending the Hollister School District meet and greet last evening and listened to what Mr. Ochoa had to say. I asked questions that I felt they represented my concerns and the concerns of the people that I have heard from. I wish that more people would have taken the opportunity to come and talk and listen to what was said and what was discussed. Based on what I heard at last night's meeting and talking with the board members I've talked with and reading news stories about what Mr. Ochoa has accomplished in the Sparta School District, I believe that Mr. Ochoa has a passion for working with communities, with children and families, with Latino community members, for students in general education, and those who need special education services. I also believe that he's going to support the staff who is in desperate, they're working. I believe he will bring his personal experience and passion to our community in a way that will be inclusive of everyone. I will be watching to make sure that he follows through on what is needed to bring positive change. And I encourage community members, because they have the responsibility to do the same of everyone. With the information I have, I support hiring Mr. Ochoa, and I want to welcome him and his family to Hollister. I look forward to working with him, the district staff, the HSD board, and community members for our community's children. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim.
And Dr. Barr, thank you.
Thank you.
You have made a huge difference and brought life.
Well, you're stuck with me for 30 more days.
You too. I mean,
Bear with me on this.
I wish I could say the report surprised me. It didn't. But I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
On Carla's recommendation, I would like to amend my motion that we approve the contract as presented with the adjustments you're going to announce.
I got you.
But wait,
Thank you.
before you do that, you have to agree
I have
to
to
the amendment.
second the amended motion.
And that's a motion, then, right? You're
I'm
second.
amending my motion.
I am
She's
seconding
agreeing
the
to amend
second.
it.
Now you gotta
Yes.
proceed. There's one little thing that happened, that we, are going to change a little bit in the contract.
Well, not change.
Well, it's not a change, it's just a little tweak.
Yes.
Acknowledge to the public that in section 6AB and B are intended to begin 2019-2020. In other words, what's in the contract as far as evaluations go, we are going to, for the rest of this school year for him, the process of evaluation is actually going to start for the next school year. It wouldn't be fair to hold somebody to something for like 4 months. So we are just making that one little amendment there. It's really very little, so it's out in public.
Right. The change that the board, the clarification that the board is making is not substantive, in my opinion, meaning that there's not a substantive change to the level of compensation or the terms and conditions of excuse me, Mr. Toa, for the contract. It's simply a clarification that in the evaluation clause of this contract, it is the intent of this board is to live up to the terms and conditions of that clause in evaluation beginning in the 2019-2020 school year. There will be discussions about the goals of the district and what they expect the superintendent to work on in the form that what the evaluation between now and the end of this school year will take that form in the form of discussions between the board and superintendent. A formal evaluation process will begin on July 1st.
Okay.
Hold
Oh,
on.
more
Sure,
comments?
yeah, Cheryl Rios.
Thank you. I want to ditto what Kim said about an impression of Diego Ochoa. I had the pleasure of sitting in on 3 of his interview type sessions, last week with teachers, and yesterday with teachers and classified, and last night with parents and community. It was remarkable how consistent his message was. So it appears to me that they are core values that he has regarding inclusiveness. I'm hopeful about that. He talked about communication. He talked about bringing in stakeholders. So I am hopeful that he will continue to do the good work that he has demonstrated in Esparto and work well for the Hollister School District. I look forward to the opportunity to working with him as well as for him. And I look forward to the collaboration and the betterment of the Hollister School District. Thank you.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Ms. Higgins.
Board of Trustees, Angela Higgins for HESTA tonight. We did not have time to put out to the site reps to get a consensus from HESTA on how we feel about this, but we did do a very thorough background check on our own. We reached out to colleagues and our brothers and sisters in other unions and other chapters, and we also did an impromptu site visit. What we were searching for is what his reputation among the people the teachers that worked for him, how he treated them, how they felt towards him, towards Diego Ochoa, excuse me. And we were able to find way more positive than there was negative. And because that's after the years, and it's not just the last 2 years, it's been much longer, that teachers in this district have not been treated well. And so we do look forward to being able to work with Diego Ochoa to have finally a professional relationship in which we can collaborate and move this district forward. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Angela.
Josefina?
Josefina? I just want to make sure I didn't screw that up. Yeah.
Good evening, board members. My name is Josefina Garcia Silva. I'm the CSA president, and in behalf of all classified That way I don't sound repetitive, just like Cheryl and everybody else said about Diego Ochoa. In the meeting we had with him, all the classified, we were very impressed with his background. One of the things that we really like is that he's the person that is not going to be in his office. He's going to be out there for the students, for certificated administrators and classified. One of the things that really stand for me was that he said that classified is to be treated with respect as everybody else. And again, what Angela said lately, not just classified, but everybody has been feeling like we haven't been respected. So classified will be here, like Angela said, to work with him, along with him, and we'll be here to support him too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Ochoa, do you want to speak before or after the board deliberates?
I'd like to speak now, if that's okay.
Come on up. Come forward.
You're gonna talk for 2 hours. Quiero empezar con reconocer a los miembros de la mesa directiva del Distrito Escolar de Hollister. Estoy aquí hoy porque quiero servir como el superintendente de este distrito. I'd like to begin by recognizing the members of the Board of Education of the Hollister School District. I'm here today because I want to serve as your superintendent. El proceso para llegar a este día ha sido difícil. Han escrito en la red y en el Facebook mucho acerca de mí. Yo vine a hablar con más de 150 personas en este mismo lugar. Les expliqué y les traté de enseñar qué clase de persona soy yo. The process to arrive at this day has been difficult. There has been much written about me on the internet and on Facebook. And I came to this very room and spoke to 150 people to try to show them who I am and what I'm about. Ha sido un circo, de ciertas maneras. Eso termina hoy. Desde hoy en adelante, el enfoque se cambia a los estudiantes del Distrito Escolar de Hollister y los excelentes empleados en esta comunidad. It has been a circus in certain senses. That ends today. And from this day forward, our focus needs to be the students in the Hollister School District and the amazing employees in this community. I'll end with one message, and I feel very strongly about this message. It's about community, it's about collaboration, it's about our work. I want to go far with this district. I want to make a difference in this district, but I want to do it together. I want to do it with this Board of Education. And I want our governance team to do it with the people in this community. Thank you.
Okay, call for the motion, board.
Well, I'd like to add something.
Oh, I'm sorry, we need to.
So, you know, I have to say, this is the oddest hiring process I've ever been through, where we started with one board and we ended up with the second one. And I'm so glad that the new board members agree with the, you know, at least the 6 that we handed you to with, and then we got down to Mr. Ochoa. The way we all work together for it, I think, portends something really great for his superintendency, should we all agree tonight. But the process was arduous, and I think hiring that search firm was the best thing that we could have done, given circumstances or not given the circumstances. And I think it is one thing that we got right as a board. It was our first major move. So anyway, I'm looking forward to all of us working together with Diego, and maybe I'll have to pick up all my Spanish, but I'm glad we're doing this, and I will be voting for him.
Well, I'm kind of teary-eyed. As you were speaking in Spanish, and I'm thinking, how many times has a superintendent spoke in a board meeting to the community in Spanish? I've only known the district for, since 1990. I don't know before that. But I don't think it's been very often, if at all. When, I knew this was going to be the biggest thing we had to do. And I know I shared with Carla, I was not sleeping. I didn't sleep. Because it is such a big deal, it's a really big deal. And just in my heart, I know for me, when I vote yes, in my heart, I said to Dr. Barr, Diego has a fire in his belly, and that's why I want him to be our superintendent.
I think for me, I remember when we called him to offer him the position, his comment was, "You had me at hello," which I was like, okay, we all started laughing. So that moment when we interviewed him, I think we were all looking at each other and we all had goosebumps. We walked away that night thinking, okay, we're done, but we still had another day. We still had some other people to talk to. But I think from the very start, from our interactions with our community, with our staff, with our leadership, in knowing where we are right now, is he perfect? No. He's pretty doggone close. And so is he what we need right now? Yes, without a doubt. The level, to me, Dr. Barr, I've worked with him, in another district, but the level of integrity, the level, it's when it's there. And from day one, from their first interaction that you have with that individual, whether they have the qualities that you need moving forward. And so every day just proves it to you and just certifies your conviction, and it does. It weighs, I think, as a board, there are so many things that that you can't share with the community that weighs heavily on the decisions we have to make. But I think having that transition, it was scary because we didn't know. Rob and I were the only two, but I just want to commend the three of you for making the transition. It couldn't have been any smoother. It couldn't have been any better. You guys are amazing as individuals, even with your own perspective and take. You came in with an open mind, most importantly with an open heart. And that, as a team, means a lot. Now with our superintendent bringing us all together, I think, and getting us grounded back to where we need to be and where we need to start from. With his leadership and, with the continued support of Dr. Barr moving us forward, there's nothing we can't accomplish.
So really quick, because I have a lot to say, but I'll say really quick. I think I felt like Jan too, and I was like, am I the only one gonna cry? I mean, you got me, Diego, Mr. Ochoa. But I wanna say that to the public and the community here and those that are watching online, that all of us took this very serious. We worked really hard the month of December. I also, thought about it a lot, even while I was not in the meetings. You've got to know that we really looked at all the community input that the consultants brought in, and we're like, okay, this and this. And so I'm excited that you guys felt what we felt, that Mr. Diego Ochoa has a lot to offer. Besides that he's Spanish speaking, he's skilled, he's qualified, and he has a lot to offer this community. So really excited. Thank you.
When I was elected, I started making a list of the things that I thought were necessary in the next superintendent. And I had spent some time studying in the district, so I had a pretty good idea of what we needed. So I had a checklist of about 8 to 9 things. And in the first interview that we had with him, he not only checked off all my 8 or 9 boxes, he put in another couple that I hadn't even thought about. So to me, I saw immediately an analytical mind, which this district desperately needs. He was able to hone in on some of the areas that we need a lot of help. And to me, as an educator, he said one thing that stuck with me. He said, and I remember myself, I get a little teary when I think about this. You never stop thinking as an educator about education. You just don't stop. It's a constant. Anytime you're awake, you're thinking about, oh, what could I do better in class or whatever? And he said that. And that hooked me right there. So I knew right at that point we had what we were looking for.
Chairman, may I have one moment?
Okay.
I'm not a voting member of this board, and I had this fancy speech I had prepared. I'm gonna throw it all out because everybody has said everything tonight. I just want to make one comment. I'm very proud of the board. I'm very proud of the process that you went through. Absolutely exhaustive, absolutely perfect. And the result is very, very positive. I am proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you.
So I have a procedural question. Jesus, are we signing this tonight for the 5 board members? So are we making an actual change to the language? The only reason I'm asking is because is it okay for, once we sign it, for Jesus to substitute where we're going to make the change? Or are we just thinking?
One grammatical mistake, we had a period after his name, which shouldn't be there. And then the rest of it, we made an explanation qualitatively in open session here that the intent of the evaluation clauses were to begin on July 1st, 2019.
Okay, good.
And I think that's clear enough. Everybody understands. We're not going to try to do the evaluation process in 4 months. It's a 12-month process, and only to be fair, it will start on July 1st. There will be discussions with the board and the superintendent during these first 4 months, and that'll set the stage for everything for the years to come. So I don't think we need to make any changes in it. We will take the period out from after his name and the opening part of the agreement. I think you take the vote.
We're gonna vote. Okay. I have a motion.
Oh, we already done that.
So I'm gonna call for the vote.
I will call for the vote then. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Congratulations. When can you start?
You decide what you
Audience, we present to you your next superintendent of Hollister.
Bienvenido.
Well, Jose
There has to be a member that has to bring us, yeah, right there.
You get paid a lot.
Well, we're not done yet.
Not quite yet.
Well, all right. Actually, I do think there's a little bit more here.
Yeah.
Board member report.
I'll start. Steve, Kane and I went to R.O. Hardin on, the last day, was that December?
Right before Christmas.
No.
18, 19.
The last day of the school year.
19.
18 at R.O. Hardin. And first and foremost, it was just a total enjoyable day to watch. I got to go into a moderate to severe classroom, TK through 8, and everybody was moderate to severe? No, mild to moderate. And everybody was busy and doing wonderful things and having a great time. And I think with the help of Angela Higgins, we might have an answer to the traffic problem. So we'll be looking at that in a little bit, but I think we have an answer. So now we're just down to Calaveras, I think, on the traffic issues. And
I can take.
okay, go ahead.
Yes, I actually visited Mays and Gavilan Hills and talked to the principal of Mays. And I believe the solution for Gavilan Hills and Mays is a relatively simple one as far as the parking. Huh? Well, it's all, I'm talking about the properties. HDLA and Gavilan Hills are on the same.
No detail tonight, just.
Okay. At any rate, we were there, we had a good discussion, and I think there'll be a bright future for that parking situation.
And the reports.
I also went to R.O. Hardin, and I got a tour with the principal and Angela. And it was really nice to meet everybody and to see the school. And I look forward to working with everybody there and also going to other schools as well. But, and I also wanted to bring up at this, or no, wait for that one, but one more thing I wanted to bring up just as a new board member, AKA rookie, yes. But rookie who reads. Because according to the bylaws, I just want to publicly say that we have a board president who is our spokesperson with the media and such. And so when Mr. Stephen Kane speaks, that is who's speaking on behalf of the board. Or the superintendent, which is now Mr. Diego Ochoa, or a designee. It is in the bylaws, 9,900. If anyone wants to reference, 9,010, and it is online. And I don't believe those are translated. They're very long, but I just want to publicly say that as a newly elected board member, AKA rookie.
Any other reports?
No, I spent the majority of my Christmas vacation talking to Dr. Barr about this contract from the cities of Sacramento, San Francisco, and Chicago. But we got there.
There's a paragraph. Thanks to Mr. Bernowski for technical assistance and you, Mr. King, for the technical assistance of looking at the job description and the agreement of contract of services. Lots of work. I mean, everybody did a lot of work, but that detail work is essential. Thank you.
Future agenda items. I think you have something, Jeff.
Yeah, I have a couple of future agenda items. I was hoping that that the HR department could put down for us, for the board, at hopefully at the next board meeting, the amount of money and the number of people that are in each department at the district office. So in other words, how many people are in each department and how much money are we spending in each department? So I don't want to know their personal information. I just need to know number of bodies and how much we're spending. And then, I don't know if JR is still here. I would like to know the cost of getting every teacher, a printer. One of the things that came out loud and clear yesterday at the special ed meeting was they can't even print out IEPs that they're working and forms that they need while they're having the IEPs in their classroom. And then regular teachers, they need access to a printer right away. All we're doing is hampering the job of a teacher, and that's not our job. We need to make their job easier.
Ms. Chris, may I clarify, are you talking about the special ed staff or all?
No, all teachers. I want to know the cost of getting a printer for all teachers. I'd like to also ask Human Resources to give us the cost of increase for substitutes so that we can increase the pay increase for substitutes. And I'd like us to be higher than the high school because we're not getting any substitutes and this is becoming a big issue. Yeah, they're going to the high school and they're not coming to us.
More money.
Yeah. And I think the last one I'll wait on, so I won't go for the last one.
I think for me, for the future agenda, once Mr. Ochoa is on board, is scheduling first and foremost a board retreat with him to kind of start coming together as a team as quickly as possible and going over just, we have a handbook, but I think it's just mission, vision. Is it the same? Is it different? What does Hollister School District mean to us now? You know, that was what it meant to boards years ago, you know. And so I think it's coming together and working on what it means for us as a team and moving our district forward. So I'd like to, once he's on board and he's looking at his schedule, putting something on the schedule as soon as possible for a board retreat.
I have one that I'd like to add is once Mr. Diego Ochoa comes on board to schedule a town hall meeting that we need to do as a board, complete school board with our new superintendent and talk to the community and we can figure out the details.
Any subject particular or in general, education in general?
I think it should be in general. Yeah, I think that this is our chance to speak to the community and hear what they have to say.
Well, we had talked about rotating schools.
Right. Well, rotating neighborhoods, I think might be because it's community, right? And so I think we had talked about neighborhoods and make it town hall like and open it up and talk to our community that's there. Because there might even be, grandparents who want to speak to us who don't have the opportunity at a school site or for whatever reason. So we could talk about that at the next board meeting.
So at our last board meeting, we appointed an ad hoc committee for the school parking problem, and I believe I was on that, but it sounds like you two are handling it. So I would like at the next meeting for you to remove me from that ad hoc committee. It sounds like you guys are already.
Yes. I was on the committee too.
I don't know how
Let's
that
see the
works.
minutes of the next one.
Well, you can stay up and you don't have to leave.
There can only be two.
Yeah,
Okay, you can be two. Oh, okay, well.
So
We'll
you guys-
figure it out. We'll figure it out.
and then, do we want to discuss a board policy regarding the use of texting to communicate with parents is.
I think that's a good idea. I mean, the point that was brought up, the legality alone is a very good
Well, we
point.
can't discuss it now,
No.
but to
Yeah.
put that on the
Something
future
for the
agenda.
future.
I agree.
We got to do it in closed session, then we'll do it in closed session.
No, it hasn't.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No, but I think that's a very good item to bring up.
Mr. Bernowski, are you referring to staff and parents, technically, or board and community?
So I think at the time we should probably discuss, but staff, the issue Marilyn brought up was very, very serious and.
Okay,
Given where we
start
are,
with staff, if you want to go to board, you can, but we'll start with staff, the use of texting,
Like a directive.
Yeah,
Well, that's an AR.
that's what it was. I mean, you can set a policy, you can start with a directive, or you can go all the way to a policy. We'll talk about it.
Well, CTA definitely says no text.
Yeah. For a good reason.
So, yeah.
Well, Marilyn picked up something, so.
Yeah.
I would just, as far as future agenda items, I'd like to firm up that March 26th date that we revisit the special ed. So that we make sure that that's down. Yes. Anything else? No. All right. Any announcements? No? Okay.
Make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Welcome, Mr. Kelly.
And we ended at 9, not 10.
Hopefully it'll be an easy from now on.
That was how many items? Two.
That was 200, but that was.
Oh, we have to sign it, right? Yes. Totally.